Good evening, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to yet another supremely amazing session on the neural control and coordination, the last lecture. And in this session, we would be discussing about the sense organs continuation, ear, nose, tongue, and skin. Out of this four, we have to study in detail, just like the human eye, that is the human ear, but just a glance at the nose, tongue, and skin. If he doesn't look at that, also no issue because it is not there in our syllabus. Up to ear is there in our syllabus, but since we are discussing with the topic of human sense organ, we are studying or just mentioning about the other three, that is the nose, tongue, and the skin. So this is our lecture number 6. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe a wonderful channel of BioPoint Stream the World of Bio. This is an amazing Telegram group at BioPoint New where we conduct regular discussion, polls, and quizzes, updates on our classes, and OMR sheet examination. So those who are wishing to join right now, go to Telegram and join our group at BioPoint New. So starting with the continuation of the last day's topic, that is the human ear. So ear means a acoustic organ. What do you mean by stato? Stato means related with balance, the equilibrium of the body. This means hearing. Acoustics is the branch of science which deals with the study of sound. Just exactly like that, acoustic organ means hearing organ. Stato means balance or that maintain an equilibrium. So this ear, human ear, is mainly concerned with two main functions, that is hearing and also balancing. It has three main divisions, that is external ear, middle ear, and the inner ear. So this is the external ear, which consists of the ear pinna. Look at the particular thing that is being highlighted. So this is the external ear. From our ear pinna to the canal, up to there is the external ear. Look, this is the outer ear. Up to here you will have the outer ear. This small portion is the middle ear. This small portion is the middle ear, and up to from that to inside you will have the inner ear. So three main regions of the ear, that is the external ear, middle ear, and the inner ear. First, we are going to discuss about the external ear. The external ear consists of an ear pinna, which is the ear lobe, and an auditory meatus or the auditory canal, which is the ear canal, the long ear canal. So this is the ear pinna, which is the outer ear lobe, which helps in collecting the sound wave, which is one of the characteristic. External ear pinna is one of the main peculiarities of class Mammalia out of the chordates. And then you have the external auditory canal. This is the auditory canal, guys. This is the auditory canal. So a part up to here, you would call it as what? The external ear. The external ear, what are the main parts? Ear pinna and the auditory meatus or the ear canal. At the opening of the ear canal, you can see hairs. Hairs is present. Along with the hairs, you will have certain wax secreting ceruminous gland. What do you call for the oil secreting gland? Oil secreting gland, you will call it as sebaceous gland. Oil secreting gland, you will call it as the sebaceous gland. That secrete a particular thing that is known as the sebum. Sweat gland, you will call that secrete sweat. And now you have the wax secreting gland that secrete wax or cerumen. That is ceruminous gland, which you will call it as the ceruminous gland that secrete a particular substance known as cerumen. If you just take out an earbud and just pull it inside our ear, you will see certain waxy substance coming out. So that you will call it as a cerumen or the wax, which is secreted by the ear, the ceruminous gland present inside the ear, which actually prevents the entry of any dust particles or any substance that blocks the hearing. So inside our ears, you have certain substances such as wax is there, hair is there, which prevents the entry of foreign objects like the insect, etc. Even though certain wax and hair-like substances are present, some kind of insects, small insects may sometimes enter, just thriving all these wax and hairs, all these kinds of protection. Okay, so we have to be careful about all these things. So our ear, our body just provides our internal protection such as wax, hairs inside the ear in order to prevent the entry of insects into the ear. The ear canal is the second part of the external ear, right? So the external ear, that is, ends in the tympanic membrane. What do you mean by tympanic membrane? Which you will call it as the tympanum or the eardrum. Familiar name, eardrum. So tympanic membrane, tympanum or the eardrum, it is a semi-transparent membrane. It is a semi-transparent membrane which is covered by a thin layer of skin on the outer surface and by the mucous membrane on the inside. Covered by a thin layer of skin on the outer surface and by a thin layer of mucous membrane on the inner side. So this is the tympanic membrane. Look, a small thin membrane-like structure. A small thin membranous covering inside the ear, you will call it as what? The tympanic membrane or the eardrum. Okay guys, is it clear? So the second part of the ear, that is the middle ear. Middle ear is the second part. External ear we completed, consists of the external ear pinna and the auditory meatus or the auditory canal. So next is the middle ear, that is the external ear ends up in the eardrum or the tympanum. So here the middle ear consists of the tympanic cavity, that is the eardrum and the ear ossicle. We studied when we studied about locomotion, and movement, we studied three small bones present inside the ear. You will call it as the ear ossicles. What are the three different ear ossicles? You will have the malleus, incus and the stapes. Malleus, incus and stapes are the three ear ossicles. These are collectively known as the ear ossicles. Each of them have a shape. Okay, the stapes, incus and malleus. So the tympanic cavity, that is the tympanic cavity, is an air-filled space that separates the internal ear and the inner ear and the external ear. That is, yes, internal ear and the external ear. An auditory tube, very important term, eustachian canal. Repeated MCQ. Eustachian canal, what is the function of the auditory tube or the eustachian canal? It connects the middle ear. It connects the middle ear to the throat, or it connects the middle ear to the pharynx. It maintains an equal pressure. It equalizes the pressure on either side of the eardrum. If suppose this is the eardrum, you suppose. So the auditory tube, that is the eustachian tube, it maintains the pressure on both sides. That is, you can use the term equalizes. So the eustachian tube, it equalizes the air pressure on both sides of the eardrum. Clear? So these are the three ear ossicles. You have the malleus, incus and the stapes. You have to study this. The ear ossicle which is attached to the tympanum. MCQ question. The ear ossicle which is attached to the tympanum malleus. The stapes is the smallest bone inside our human body. MCQ. The stapes is the smallest bone of the human body. It is attached to the membrane of the oval window. So the stapes is the smallest bone of the body. It is attached to the membrane of the oval window. What is the other term for oval window? Fenestra ovalis of inner ear. Oval window and fenestra. Oval window is also known as the fenestra ovalis. It is present inside the inner ear. Look at the enlarged image. This is the malleus, incus and the stapes. Look, the stapes is attached to the oval window. The stapes is attached to the oval window. Malleus is attached to the eardrum or the tympanic membrane. The last part of the ear, that is the inner ear, it consists of a bony labyrinth. It consists of a bony labyrinth and also a membranous labyrinth. The bony labyrinth is a cavity which is filled with a fluid known as the perilymph. Previous year MCQ question. So the inner ear consists of two main fluids, that is the entolymph and the perilymph. Okay, the inner ear consists of two main fluids, perilymph and the entolymph. Among the two, you will have the bony labyrinth covered by a fluid-filled portion which is known as the perilymph. Next is the membranous labyrinth. It consists of two main parts, that is the cochlea and the vestibular apparatus. It consists of a cochlea and a vestibular apparatus. The organ of hearing, it is the cochlea. Actually, the structure present inside the ear helps in hearing. That is the cochlea. Okay. So cochlea is the organ that helps in the hearing, but inside the cochlea you have another one particular specific organ which you will call it as organ of Corti. Organ of Corti is the particular structure that helps in the process of hearing. And what is the main function of vestibular apparatus? It helps in maintaining the balance. We already told that the ear is a statoacoustic organ. Statoacoustic organ, that is helps in both static maintenance and also helps in the process of hearing. So the cochlea is a coiled structure. The cochlea is the coiled structure which consists of three canals, which is the upper scala vestibuli, the middle scala media, and the lower scala tympani. You have to by heart all these terms. Three main canals, that is the scala vestibuli, scala media, and the scala tympani. The scala vestibuli and the scala media are separated by a particular membrane known as the racemous membrane. Previous year Neet MCQ question. The scala media and the scala tympani are separated by the basilar membrane. Previous year MCQ. Okay. So you can clearly see over here the scala vestibuli. I will show you very clearly as a zoomed image. Look guys, this is a scala vestibuli, scala media, they are separated. Look, this is the separation. So the scala vestibuli and the scala media, they are separated by a membranous sheath which is called the racemous membrane. And look at the next one. The scala media and the scala tympani, this area, it is separated by the membranous sheath which is called the basilar membrane, right? So the scala vestibuli and the scala tympani are filled with a fluid called the perilymph, and the scala media is filled with entolymph. So this slide completely consists of only MCQ question. Scala vestibuli, scala media, scala tympani, MCQ, racemous membrane, MCQ, basilar membrane, MCQ, perilymph, entolymph, MCQ. Guys, this is how cochlea. Cochlea is actually a coiled structure. Cochlea is actually a coiled structure. So just imagine this particular diagram which will give you the entire MCQs of this slide. Instead of by hearting, just imagine you have three main layers. Just imagine. This is scala vestibuli, scala media, scala tympani. In between the scala vestibuli and the scala media, you have a particular covering which is known as the racemous membrane. In between the scala media and the scala tympani, you have another membranous covering which is known as the basilar membrane. The scala vestibuli and the scala media are filled with perilymph and the scala media is filled with, scala vestibula and the scala tympani filled with perilymph, scala media is filled with endolymph. Next one. Resting on the basilar membrane and projecting into the scalar media is a receptor organ, which is actually the organ of hearing, that is the organ of Corti. It consists of a row of sensory hair cell. What do you mean by sensory hair cell? They suddenly attract or they suddenly catch out the impulse or the sensors. The hairs, that is a stereociliae of these cells, project upwards and lie in contact with another membrane, that is a tectorial membrane, which projects out. Clear? So guys, this is the hair-like portion. It is attached with this particular membrane, that is the tectorial membrane. This particular organ is the organ of Corti. It is located inside the cochlea. Next is the vestibule. So we discussed about cochlea and organ of Corti as the organs of hearing. Now we have the inner ear, which is a vestibular apparatus. You have another one set of part, that is, it consists of a vestibular apparatus also, which maintains equilibrium. So inside the vestibular apparatus, the equilibrium is maintained by 3 semicircular canal and an otolith organ. Semicircular canal helps in maintaining the equilibrium and balance of our body. That is why when we turn around for, if we go for some other ride park, water theme park, or some amusement park, you will most of the students just have a vomiting tendency after they enter into the large turning slides, all these things, right? So it's because if they turn around, the fluid, the perilymph and the endolymph inside the ear will get on turning. It will lead to the loss of balance. Okay, so the 2 semicircular canals are vertical and one is horizontal. One end of each canal has a bulging portion which is called the ampulla. Inside it is a lump called the crista ampullaris. And inside the crista are grouped bundle which is called the cupula. You don't have to study all these things. Study up to ampulla only. Ampulla is important. Study up to ampulla. Yes, next is the otolith organ. It consists of 2 structures, that is the utricle and the saccule. So we have 2 types of balance. We need a static balance. That is whenever we are standing. Whenever we are at rest, then we should have a dynamic balancing system also. Yes, utricle and saccule have a projecting ridge which is called the macula. Projecting ridge which is called the macula. The crista and the macula are specific receptors which are responsible for equilibrium and posture of the body. Okay, the crista and macula, that is the utricles and sacculus, helps in the equilibrium and posture of the body. Guys, take a screenshot for this. Please take a snapshot for this slide. Very useful. Table of the mechanism of hearing. Yes, the pinna collect the sound waves. The waves reaches, I'll mark it out once again. Yes, the ear pinna collects the sound waves. The ear pinna collects the sound waves. It transmits a wave to the tympanic membrane through the ear canal or the auditory canal. It causes the vibration of the tympanic membrane. So this vibration, the tympanic membrane is attached to the ear ossicle malleus. So the vibrations are passed on to the ear ossicles, malleus, incus, stapes, and finally the stapes is attached to the oval wing or the fovea. Okay. So inside the fovea, you have the perilymph in the vestibular canal also getting vibrated. So this vibration reaches the scala tympani and forces the basilar membrane to vibrate. Then you have the hair endings of sensory hair cell against the tectorial membrane, and the sensory hair cells are getting excited and the auditory nerve carry the impulse to the auditory center of the brain, which is finally leading to the hearing. I haven't added the video for this, so I will send you the video on our Telegram group. Just remind me, somebody. Just somebody remind me of it. Okay, so the pinna, you have to study this path only. Pinna, auditory canal, eardrum, ear ossicle, oval window, vestibular canal, scala tympani, basilar membrane, tectorial membrane, auditory nerve, and the brain. Next structure, next sense organ is the nose. Nose is actually the organ of smell or olfaction. It contains a mucus-coated receptor, that is the olfactory receptor, made up of olfactory epithelium. You don't have to study all these things. I'm just telling about it. Okay, they receive the nose is mainly concerned with smell. So that is all about the nose. I'm not talking about much which make you confused with this chapter. Anyway, this is a lengthy chapter which makes you too confused. So I'm not making you confused with all other things which are not necessary. Next is the tongue. Tongue is the organ of taste or the gustation. Sometimes they can ask you a simple question. Name the organ of the human body which helps in gustation. It is the tongue. So 4 primary tastes are there: sweet, salt, sour, and bitter. The taste buds, that is a gustato receptor, and the supporting cells are seen around the bases of the taste papillae. If you just drink out a hot tea or a coffee, what happens? Your taste buds would get damaged, and when you see your tongue, you will see that your papillae would getting red in color because all the taste buds in the tongue are getting destroyed. The nose and the tongue are called the chemoreceptor because they detect the dissolved chemical signals. Clear? The last sense organ, which is actually the largest sense organ, is the skin. It contains the receptor for heat, cold, touch, pain, and pressure. So that is all about the skin, which is the largest sense organ of the body. So that's all about this chapter, neural control and coordination. So we have successfully completed the chapter neural control and coordination. Tomorrow I'll be beginning with chemical coordination and integration. And one important thing, for chemical coordination and integration, I'll be doing only NCRT. Only NCRT, because from that chapter you are going to get direct MCQs only from NCRT. It is one of the sure shot chapter. Okay, direct MCQ based on your NCRT class 11th text only. So we are not going to study anything in detail from it. We are only going to study in depth about the NCRT. So I'll be doing the NCRT cut copy over the chemical control and coordination. So thank you guys. See you in the next class with yet another supremely amazing lecture on chemical coordination and integration. So bye-bye guys. See you in the next class.